Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors, as a 10-minute book. In the Upper West Side apartment where they grew up, Avery, the eldest Blue sister, always led the way. Sensible and structured, she taught her younger sisters everything from swimming to shuffling cards. Avery had always seemed to crave more space than the rest of them. Bonnie, stoic and strong, sought refuge in the boxing ring. The first time Bonnie entered a boxing gym, Nikki had been by her side. Bonnie had, she felt, all the social grace of a grizzly bear. Nikki, the sensitive one, yearned to be a mother but battled endometriosis. Nikki was studying for the SAT and was using the vocabulary words every chance she got. Lucky, the youngest, drifted through life, a model lost in a haze of parties and fleeting connections. Lucky usually couldn't walk more than one block without digging her headphones into her ears, building a musical buffer between herself and the world. 1 year after Nikki's death, the Blue Sisters find themselves scattered. Lucky is late to a couture show fitting in Paris, a city where she feels aggressively exposed, especially as it's the anniversary of her sister's death. The Paris metro was almost aggressively efficient and fully accessible by cell phone, even underground, so there was nowhere to hide. Avery's call to process her feelings goes unanswered, as does their mother's email regarding the sale of their childhood flat. The apartment had lain empty these past 12 months. Lucky copes by partying with graffiti artists and impulsively calling Nikki's still-active phone number just to leave a message. Avery, still paid for the family phone plan, is a reminder of their shared past and Lucky's constant longing to speak with her deceased sister. The last suggestion on the list is to take a seat. That's all it says, take a seat. Avery, in London, is with her wife, Chidi. From a distance, the siblings could be twins, both resting their narrow chin in a cup of their long hands, their smooth black hair reflecting the light as if lacquered. Vish, a friend, is visiting, and the atmosphere is strained. Avery is on edge, grappling with grief and a sense of responsibility for her sisters. She receives the email from her mother about selling the New York apartment, which was a 2-bedroom in a pre-war building on the Upper West Side that their parents bought below market value decades ago. Avery feels the weight of this decision, knowing she will likely have to manage the logistics. "You know I'm going to end up dealing with that whole apartment," she said. She never asks her sisters for help. Chidi tries to comfort her, but Avery's grief is a barrier. Later, while taking a bath, Avery reflects on how Nikki's death has changed her, creating a storm in her once calm mind. She feels guilty, wondering if she had been too preoccupied with Chidi to notice Nikki's struggles. Then finds herself in an argument with Chidi. Bonnie is in New York, working with her boxing trainer, Pavel. He was not a man who was easily surprised, but she saw him flinch. She receives a call from Avery about their mother's email. The apartment holds a complicated significance for Bonnie. As Avery reads the email aloud over the phone, Bonnie recalls how their childhood home, though small, contained their growing selves until it couldn't anymore. After her training session, Bonnie sees Peachy, who tries to befriend her. He exclaims, "We're gonna help some people get laid tonight. I can feel it." Bonnie remembers the painting that hung above the mantelpiece, a portrait of the 4 Blue Sisters that captured their childish beauty while also giving their faces a caprine quality. You should ask Chidi, she would know. Avery finds Lucky in London after a night of partying. She confronts her about her lifestyle. Avery tells Lucky she's too thin. Lucky is defensive. Avery attends an AA meeting, seeking solace but feeling disconnected. She meets Charlie, a fellow attendee, and they share their struggles. Avery reveals Nikki's overdose, explaining her sister's chronic pain from endometriosis and the medical system's failure to help her. Avery recalls her last conversation with Nikki. Lucky parties with Troll Doll and takes drugs. She blacks out, waking up in Avery's house with only fragmented memories of the night before. Lucky sees BFG, who reminds her that she is Nikki's baby. Lucky remembers Nikki wanted to remain. Lucky also realizes that she wants to celebrate her sister and live life the way Nikki wanted to. Bonnie gets a voicemail from her. Bonnie's message is awkward but heartfelt, inviting Lucky to New York and offering to sort through Nikki's belongings. Lucky, seizing the chance to escape London, books a flight to New York. Bonnie was boxing again and Avery was having a baby. That gave her just over 24 hours left in London, a city that clearly did not have a great influence on her. She would go to New York to help Bonnie with the apartment, but then what? Lucky spends her last day in London drinking at a pub, deleting messages from her agent, and celebrating her newfound freedom from modeling. Lucky arrives in New York, and Bonnie is shocked by her condition. Bonnie dedicates herself to helping Lucky detox, mirroring the care Avery once provided. Bonnie remembers Nikki's last words, "Nothing left in me." Bonnie bathes and comforts Lucky. She reflects on her failure to save Nikki and resolves not to fail Lucky. She had failed with Nikki, arriving minutes too late. Avery arrives in New York unexpectedly, straining the fragile peace between the sisters. Bonnie felt the loss of joy after Nikki's death. Avery is met by her sisters when she arrives. The gang's back together. Chidi was not with Avery. Lucky makes a jab at Avery and is defensive. The sisters argue about Nikki's belongings, reopening old wounds. They walked back from the bodega, juggling their egg and cheese on rolls and coffees in the familiar Greek paper cups when Lucky stopped and gasped. Avery's efficiency is backfiring on her, leaving her resentfully doing a task no one had asked her to do. She can't stand a long car ride alone with her sister after what she has just done. Their mother had rejected them all over again, and Avery had to make it okay. She says Lucky was offered a way out and was being selfish. Bonnie is in pain. Bonnie caught Avery's eye and gave her a gentle look. Lucky storms out and wants a smoke. She remembered Nikki's funeral. Then, she Googled AA meetings. A perky-looking woman in neon running gear raced past, did a double take, and slowed to jog on the spot. How many ordinary-looking New Yorkers were secretly sober? The meeting was uneventful. Avery was the worst culprit. Bonnie returns to training. She remembers finding Nikki. She returned to the apartment, hoping one of her sisters would be there so they could just make up already, but both Lucky and Avery were out. Bonnie finds a shirt of Nikki's and puts it on and looks like her sister. She'd been relieved that the meeting was at the same time as her former home group, so it was unlikely anyone she knew would be there. Avery wakes up in a hotel in Midtown. There was an anecdote she'd heard about David Foster Wallace, who had considered television, not drugs, to be his primary addiction. She decides to visit their mother. She couldn't see Charlie again. When Chidi asked her what her favorite part of the house was after they put in the offer, she had said, without thinking, that she liked that in addition to the front door, it had a back door that led through to the garden. Avery closed her eyes. Their mother tells her that Avery can't save everyone. Her mother dropped the piece of straw and brushed off her palms. Then you're allowed to stop looking for penance and move on with your life. Lucky returns, sobers up with the help of her sisters and the memory of Nikki. Avery returns, and Bonnie was there. Lucky sings about Nikki. The sisters spend time together packing up Nikki's stuff, learning to live life without her, and finding symmetry in 3. Lucky then reveals what Nikki wished for: no more pills. Avery reveals she slept with someone else. She broke down and had to tell the truth. Lucky says Avery is not in fact perfect. They are on each other's side. Avery arrives back in London and finds Chidi. Chidi was wearing a pair of Avery's blue cotton pajamas, something they always used to do when the other traveled and they missed the other. "I don't want to have a baby. You couldn't have saved her. There was life before and there's life now. There's just no end to the missing." The story jumps to 10 years later. The sisters come from the north and south. The sisters' mother visited the city more now that all 3 of her daughters lived there again. Bonnie and Pavel have a baby girl. She had, however, managed to deliver as she'd hoped, without medication or intervention, leaning into the pain, as a lifetime of combat had her trained to do, and now she was both satisfied and spent. They name her Nicole. Bonnie is happy. Avery leans forward and kissed first Bonnie, then the baby on the forehead. Thanks for listening to this 10-minute book. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more bite-sized books. Got a book in mind you'd love to hear in 10 minutes? Drop it in the comments below. See you in the next one.